She says that just to remind me of days gone by. Yeah. Please take the stand, Joe. My name is Joe. I'm a crystal meth addict.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, you know, we ask at this meeting if people have sponsorship, and I know when we're new, none of us want to stand up. We don't want to stand out. We're hoping like hell no one here recognizes us. We all have been there. But I'm led to tell you what sponsorship did for me is it gave me a closed-mouthed, understanding friend, and I was able to unburden myself so that I could get to walking in this calling that we're about to describe tonight. So in all seriousness, all of us, if we're in this room tonight, our calling is to become sponsors quickly. When Bill Wilson had this experience shared with him, Ebby came to him at 60 days sober to share an experience with Bill, who was drunk when he received the experience. The power of the experience will get through your delusion and get you well. And so it's not about you honoring a sponsor, it's about the sponsor being honored to serve you. So if any of you are sponsorless, or if any of you would like to go through the steps with someone else to get a different experience, we got a whole field of us here that are uniquely qualified to hear your story and help you with it. And I just want you to understand what sponsorship really is as opposed to what we might think it is. Okay, so how many of you are in this meeting for the very first time tonight? Good, good. First of all, welcome. And the other thing that you're probably going to find from this meeting is that we're a little different than other meetings of the fellowship. I told you that I was a crystal meth addict. Do I have any other addicts here? Oh, yeah. Everybody? And everyone else lacks power in some other area of their life. Okay, in Crystal Meth Anonymous, we used this book to find the instructions for the steps we take. And we use this book, why?
Because it works.
The 12 steps have been proven that they work by these guys' experience. This is a book of experience. And the original book of instruction in the 12 steps is Alcoholics Anonymous' book. To my knowledge, it's the only book of experience with a proven result. There's been many books written since, but this book tells of an unfolding experience that leads to recovered states from addiction. Not recovering, recovered. And there's a difference, and it's not semantics, it's an experience. So tonight we're going to take a look at that manner of living in detail, because we're looking at 10 and 11. So those of you that are new to the process, you'll get to see the all-inclusive nature of the steps. And those of you who've been at it a while, you'll probably have a new experience with it. My job is to show you how I find my experience in this book and encourage you to have your experience with it. And if we both do our job, we're going to have a spiritual experience here tonight. Sound like fun? Okay. So where we want to go to is page 84. Now, step 10 says, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And 11 says, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. I'd like you to watch as we go through the instruction, watch how the authors try to convey to us the increasing focus on our thought life. They'll go from action to thought life. Do you notice how you guys probably, regardless where you are in the journey, we tried to think our way into better acting all the way here, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then when AA got a hold of us, they said, we got a different plan for you. How about if we act our way into better thinking? And then some drunk somewhere said, fake it till you make it, and it got people confused. If I want to get physically fit, I go to the gym and I start acting physically fit before I feel physically fit and before I look physically fit. If I want to get spiritually fit, I'm going to start taking some action before I start looking like the actions are working and I start feeling it. But I'll start feeling it before I start seeing it. In fact, other people will see it in me before I do. We're going to talk about that manner of living. We're going to talk about that fitness program tonight. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go to page 84, and it says, this thought. You there with me in the middle of the page? This thought brings us to step 10. What thought?
That the promises will materialize if we work for them.
Did you hear her?
No.
That the ninth step promises will always materialize if we work for them. What's the work?
The steps.
The all-inclusive nature of the steps teaches me that it's everything that they've taught me up to now and everything that all of you are going to teach me going forward. Which is why it's so important that I go out and take this healing power that I have gained access to for a walk and touch others. The faith grows when the wonders follow us. Faiths that work go back 5,000 years. Read every book on spirituality. They got two characteristics. You can examine the path with your logical senses. It makes sense. The approach makes sense. And it's followed by signs and wonders. That's why we continue to go out and heal. You don't have to believe me. Watch and walk. Okay? All right, so this suggests that we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. There's a promise in there along with the instruction. If I'm going to continue, when did I start?
In the fourth step.
They taught me how to take a personal inventory when they taught me how to do step 4. They taught me that I had certain things that had obscured my consciousness of the power we call God. Various manifestations of self. Right? Calamity, pomp, worship of other things. And I started looking at it in terms of my resentment for those calamities. Those people that hurt me, that maybe I didn't have a part in, but I was still dying of what they did to me 30 years, 40 years later. Anyone else like me? Okay. And then pomp, every time anything good happened in my life, I was doing it. And anytime anything bad happened in my life, someone else did it. And then worship of other things, well, I would get distracted by those things in the world.
Yes.
Not just necessarily drugs and alcohol, although that was a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
But there was sex, there was money, there was power, there was prestige. There was the idea that I could control the way you all thought about me. Any of you chase that?
Oh, yeah.
What I'm trying to tell you and what they're trying to tell you is that our minds are under constant attack as human beings in a war of ideas. And without a decision to move in this manner of living that is unshakable, we're going to lose that war of ideas. How many of you are here again after several tries because you've lost the war of ideas? Okay. And it's not necessarily about drinking and drugs, right? How many of you got sober for some period of time and found yourself wrecked because of an unmanageable life? Okay, this is higher consciousness. That's why I'm trying to focus you, because if that's the case, if you're suffering today, we got to look at the walk, the manner of living. Okay? All right, so here it says we're going to continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. They promised me something. When did they teach me to set right new mistakes?
9.
Back in 9. I learned how to set right new mistakes when I was learning how to set right old mistakes. They've also promised me I'm going to make new mistakes.
Yep.
Right?
Lots of them.
It doesn't say if, it says when. Right? Okay. So then it says that we do it at a certain time. When do they suggest we do it?
Promptly.
As we go along. That's generally when I screw shit up, is as I go along. You guys notice that? That's what they want me to pay attention to. And they're not telling me what to do. Watch what they're doing now. They've kind of shifted what they do. They're telling us precisely what they do now to raise their... This is what we do. And we is them, not us. We got to follow them if we want what they have. Does that make sense? Okay. So then it goes, we vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So remember when they talked to us about a manner of living the first time? And that real promising how it works chapter that we read at every AA meeting, right? Those people who don't recover are people who are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. And none of us get here with enough honesty to stay if we belong here. So I've got to be capable of grasping and developing at this very discipline they're about to describe. Does that interest you? Okay, well, let's take a look. There's a promise. We have entered the world of the Spirit. What's it mean to have entered the world of the Spirit? What's the experience?
It's okay to be me.
Shout it out, man. This isn't words on a wall, man. Right?
Yeah.
I don't regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. My past has become my greatest asset because I've employed it to help others.
Yep.
I don't fear economic insecurity because I got a new employer and he provides what I need if I keep close to him and perform his work well. New freedom, new happiness. You guys having that experience? Realizing that maybe God been doing something for you that you hadn't been aware of?
Yep.
Maybe longer than you were knowing? Depending on where you are in the journey? See, those promises will always materialize, and typically they already have. We've just not been aware. How many of you have had that experience? Okay. Okay, so that's what it's like to have entered the world. So it doesn't say we might have, it says we have. Okay. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Understanding of what? Effectiveness at what?
Understanding and me, the people, and God.
You guys hearing all that? You agree? You get a better understanding of yourself through the process?
Yes.
Those of you sponsoring people, you getting a better understanding of others?
Yes.
How about you being sponsored by people? You find out your sponsor's kind of an ass after a while?
Oh, yeah.
Found out he's human? So we get to understand there's human characteristics and we misread and we, right? And then in that process, once you learn that God was an experience and what that experience was, that experience is the feeling of love for a friend and it flows through me, but it's not of me. Once you had that experience, are you growing in understanding of the power we call God?
Yes.
And its effects. And if you're not there, if you haven't gone through a second step experience, keep coming back, we'll show you that. See, by 11, I'm going to improve that conscious contact, the awareness of being aware of that feeling for a friend, that feeling of love flowing through me, because that's the power to heal. Okay? Alright, so this is not an overnight matter. These guys were really honest. Remember they told us, and there is a solution, I got a solution, you're not going to like the process.
Oh, no.
Well, we tell everybody when they first get here, man, you just get your meetings, just don't pick up one day at a time. No, man, this is a lifetime of practice and discipline and spiritual practice, and it's got to go on for a lifetime, and it's an unfolding experience of laying down my weapons I used to need in the world and just taking the conquest that's already mine. That makes sense? You want it? Okay, it's not an overnight matter. Sorry. Okay? It should continue for our lifetime. How many of you said that prayer in 3 and thought, anyone can do this for a day? You turn my will of my life over for a day? Yeah. No. Make that decision, you're powerless to do otherwise. How many of you noticed after you made that decision, you might have drank again, but you couldn't behave in quite the same way without not feeling a little different about it? See, once you invite the experience in, you are powerless to stop that experience from unfolding. So it's really a good idea to want to get well. Staying sick sucks. Okay? So now I've got to tell us something else. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. If I'm going to continue, when did I start?
I always done it.
You guys hearing them? You understand what they're talking about? They're telling me to continue to watch like I've always done. I've always been particularly good at spotting selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear in y'all. This is where they're starting to tell us, man, there ain't nothing wrong with you. Pick up your mat and walk. Continue doing what you're doing, but we want to add some discipline to that practice. So continue watching for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, but when they crop up, ask God at once to remove them. Remember, God is the power within you. You're talking to you, you ain't talking to the world. What are you watching? What is it you're watching if I'm asking God to remove it?
My
Am I
thoughts.
asking God to vaporize my fellows?
No, I'm watching my thoughts.
You ever think about that, what they're saying? I've spotted selfishness. God, strike him. I don't think that's what they're saying, is it? What am I watching?
My thoughts.
Your behavior.
I'm maybe watching my behavior, although I'm not very good at it, because I always see it in retrospect.
Yeah.
But there's a high likelihood I'm watching my thoughts. In fact, most of what I see you guys doing, behaving badly, it's my thoughts that disturb me, not your actions. Any of you like me?
Yeah.
How many of you got here as thieves?
Man.
How many of you are still thieves? How many of you don't know what the hell I'm talking about? Have you ever walked into a room and you're feeling pretty good and somebody walks in, they're putting out some real bad energy, and you just steal that energy and you start acting out toward them? Oh, you're still thieves. See, we got to continue to watch. And we got to ask for a power greater than me, because when you act out, I want to join you. I know your behavior much better than I know divine behavior. Right? Okay. So, we're going to continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And when these crop up, we're going to ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. They want me to get right into discipline of the practices they've taught me. If it's disturbing me, I've got a part in it. I only recognize what you're doing because I've done it before. They talk about it in how it works, and they get into it a lot in that relationship stuff. They talk very detailed about how we want to stay out of the controversy of people's sexual behavior. We don't want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. Remember, it's a book of experience.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to be the arbiter of your conduct doesn't mean I'm not going to be. How many of you have seen people behaving badly, sexually? That's a favorite around here, right?
Oh, yeah.
We see them behaving badly and we're quite sure that son of a bitch is going to be drunk, high, whatever. But I recognize it because I've done it. And I'm probably angry because they're doing it with someone I wanted to do it. So I'm going to need to get some power, and I'm going to need to talk about it. You understand what I'm saying? Or am I the only one that's like that? Probably the only one, again. Alright, so then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. See, the power, the window that opens to save me is the power of my thoughts turning to another. When I offer myself in service to another, there's a window of opportunity to escape disaster. And it happens every time. So you understand what they're telling me the manner of living looks like now? Watch, ask, discuss, turn. Just what they taught me in the first 9 steps, particularly 4 through 9. Watch, ask, discuss, turn. Watch my thoughts for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, I ask God at once to remove them from me so that I can better see to help my brother. Any of you ever read that other book? How can you see the speck in your brother's eye when you can't see the plank in your own eye?
Right.
That's what they're talking about. There's a myth in the rooms because of the story in the back of the book that anytime someone pisses you off, pray for them.
Oh.
Well, we end up assaulted often then because I keep assuming y'all are wrong every time and never take ownership. See what I'm saying? But there's a reason your action disturbs me. I'm not accepting your humanness. And apparently haven't shed the light on mine. Okay, so goes on to say that love and tolerance of others is our code. Love what? Tolerate what?
Love
Others.
man, tolerate the symptoms.
Others, their behavior.
Love the people. Tolerate the symptoms of their malady, just like I'm hoping they'll give me that grace, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not the people that disturb me, it's their symptoms. And it's really not even their symptoms, but my thoughts about their symptoms. And it's a never-ending battle against my mind, and then I have no peace. And they're suggesting, guys, this ain't about concepts. This is what they did. And the reason I can speak to you about it clearly is this is the battle I fight. And if you want to join me in getting some peace and freedom, this is what we do. This is the manner of living. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It should continue for our lifetime. Okay? Then it goes on to say that we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. In step 2, I was hoping for that.
Yeah.
And I followed some very simple instructions that I had nothing to do with creating, and it's occurred if I just took the suggestions. And if this hasn't occurred for you, it's because knowing it isn't going to do it for you. Doing it's going to do it for you.
Yep.
The power in you will do it for you, but you got to take the power for a walk. I don't know what it is about that power, but that power wants my feet. Understand? Mm-hmm. Okay. Goes on to say that we'll seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. If those two conditions exist, what's the potential I can drink, use drugs, whatever?
0.
Can't happen, can it?
Nope.
We all know what a hot flame causes, even leaning on a hot car. We get right the hell off of it, right?
Yeah.
Bring it to conscience. It's not possible. And it's not the description that we often hear in the fellowship, and that's why we want you guys to go back to the fellowship and teach them there's a difference between recovering and being recovered.
Yep.
The difference is a reclaimed life. Snatched from the scrap heap and raised to a level of life. I redefine my addiction as a calling rather than a curse. And I walk in it. I demonstrate the healing power of God through me. And anytime I touch you, I get a jolt. That's why I do it. You see all those hands that went up?
Amazing grace.
That's what we do. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay? So it goes on to tell us that we react sanely and normally, and we'll find that this has happened automatically. We'll see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. How many of you are still thinking you're working really hard on your sobriety? That's okay. That's okay, because that's part of the process. It's part of laying down the tools. How many of you have been here long enough to know, looking back, there's a damn thing any of us can do. If we really belong here, it's all grace.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen too many people much smarter than me,
Locked up.
Yep.
much more faithful than me, much more whatever, and they ain't here.
Yep.
Yep.
Just saying. Okay, what's our new attitude toward liquor?
Neutral.
Yeah, what's the difference? I need liquor like, it's what made me reasonable, gave me a calling.
Yeah.
Any of you get reasonable at the handle liquor? If you're not reasonable at the handle liquor, how about crack? Methamphetamine?
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Any heroin reasonable people in here? Okay. Nobody can convince you like heroin that it's a good idea to stay humble. Because if we want to get to our knees, heroin will put us on our knees.
Oh, well.
That will. So crack, so alcohol, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why we're so worked up about coming here and getting our damn knees. Been on a while. All the way in. That's the miracle of it. We're not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. Any of you guys relate to what they're saying, the feeling?
Yep.
Yes.
That war of ideas doesn't have an effect when my consciousness is here.
Nope.
I'm no longer in the chemical world of action-reaction because I've been placed in a position of neutrality. I can watch everybody go crazy around me,
Yes.
and I don't have to act in my desperate desire to fix a situation.
Yep.
As long as I remain conscious of who the doer is, and I continue to have asking for my fear to be removed, direct my attention to what you have me be, I'm a being. The most common instruction for Joe in all of my life experience is, God, please remove my fear. And the clear instruction is, Joe, be still. Be quiet.
Let it happen.
Any of you think maybe not piping in might help?
Yep.
Goes on to say we've not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. What is the problem?
Fear.
A lot of people here in the rooms, they think the problem's the mind. No, it's sinners in the mind. But God gave you exactly the mind you need for the purpose He wants you to fulfill. We want you to use your mind. I mean, you can't even accept this approach without a sound mind. That's why we're going to hit you with depth and weight, and then we're going to lay it in front of you in a logical way so you can pick it up, examine it with your senses, and walk toward us consciously. God doesn't have to dope His victims. We did all of that on the way here. That's how we got reasonable. You know what I'm saying? Wake the hell up and then come. Okay? All right, it does not exist for us. We're not cocky nor are we afraid. That's our experience. So now they've made it really clear. But what's been removed is my fear problem. Do you understand why? Love comes in, fear goes out. Love is light, fear is dark. Light has eternal authority over darkness.
Yep.
If you don't believe me, go home tonight, turn off all the lights, turn it back on, see if the darkness remains. Ain't gonna fucking happen. That's how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Okay, so this is an operations manual for a complex machine, the human. If I want to know if I'm in fit spiritual condition, how might I check?
Go and ask those questions.
That was a state of being I'll be in if my consciousness is raised to the place they say spiritually fit. So the first thing, am I fighting anyone or anything? Does it make sense? And so anytime I'm struggling, I now know that I'm lacking a decision, I've got an amends to make, I've got an inventory to take. Does it make sense? Somewhere in the process, that's where I'm at. And you guys that are sponsoring people, when they call you and say, man, I'm feeling really bad about that, well, let's talk about why we're not making amends. And if we're not willing to make amends, let's talk about who you're working with, who you sponsoring.
Right.
Because your sponsees are going to drive you to do the shit you won't do.
Right.
Yep.
I promise you they will. They're the mirrors. Okay? Alright, so it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
How many of you have been at this a while? It gets really, because I'll tell you what, not drinking, not going to the dope house, you know, just like going there every day got to be a habit, not going there gets to be a habit. But that doesn't make us free.
Nope.
So it is easy, right? We don't want to go there because we usually end up in a wreck. And I'll tell you, those of us that have been at this a while, life goes on a lot longer than you would think. Some of you guys are young in the journey, and I'm happy to be here watching you get well. And I started this thing at 27 years old, and it is a long freaking hike. That's all I tell you, and this discipline makes it nicer. Huh? Okay, we're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol's a subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. You understand what a reprieve is?
Yeah, take back.
It's a stay of execution. Guys, I stand before you a dead man. I lost my life in addiction. I was a soulless shell of a man, and this power, this experience was shared with me, and the experience that's touching you guys tonight as I'm feeling you is not Joe. Because the power in me is the only power that has the power to inspire you. Spirit recognizes spirit. You might think you're seeing Joe, but you are not feeling Joe. You understand? And that's the experience. It's a different experience. Okay? So every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. Which day?
Every day.
Every day. Did you know you could carry the vision of God's will?
Yeah, now I do.
All we got to do is ask for it, guys, and go through the discipline to get centered, because All I can see when I look at these rooms is all those years of all the people that come and go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All I can see is my past experience, which means the highest percentage of you are doomed.
Right.
How many of you guys been around? You know what I'm talking about?
Been there.
Okay. God's will for you is I see every one of you recovered. That's God's will for you. And if I just look at you from these eyes, I'll never see that vision. Does that make sense? Start to see miracles when we realize that we can have that vision. There was a promise in another book, what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, what no human mind has conceived. It's what I have for you. And it's a good thing because all I can see with these eyes is a reflection of my past experience. Anyone else with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why we go inward. Not to impress, to see the vision, to heal. Yeah? Yes, co-create. That's our job, spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation. Inside of you are elements of the divine. Out here is nothing but human. If we keep drawing from here, we're going to have human experiences. When we go inside, we get an ideal. We walk in that ideal. We honor other people trying to grow to their ideal. And in that experience, we create a divine experience on earth. Does it make sense? Yes. That's what we're about. Okay. So, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. That's it. That's all they're doing by this time to raise my consciousness. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. So if you don't have this in your discipline, they've written it down for you. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. Every time we're disturbed. Which for me is pretty frequently. Okay? We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It's the proper use of the will. How many of you gave your will away in 3? Thought you're never going to see it again. Bye, Will. And then you came to a meeting and you heard someone say, I turned it over and I took it back. Oh, that's what I did. I turned it over and have you ever said that shit?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have a very powerful God if you're snatching shit out of His hand. You may have lost consciousness.
Yeah.
That's possible. But you didn't snatch your will back. It's all God's will. Doesn't have any opposite. Okay. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. Where's my educated people? Doesn't that piss you off? He's got all the knowledge too? How many of you go crazy looking for an original thought?
Yeah.
A lot of people do. No original thought. Source of all knowledge and power is within you. Seek, and you'll find. Okay? If we've carefully followed directions, we've begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. Now they're starting to talk about an awakening, an awareness of the flow of the Spirit. It's a sensory experience. Those guys that are new, we have a real solution. That sense of ease and comfort that came at once when I took a drink or a hit, this one surpasses that once I get the crap out of the way. I don't come to believe based on a concept. I come to believe based on a growing power within me for good. And Joe doesn't have a big history with doing good. You know what I'm saying? Okay, to some extent we have become God conscious. So what is God consciousness? The sense of His flow, that flow of His Spirit in us. The awareness of being aware. How many of you have... Yeah, how many of you have had that flow, that Spirit in you, and then thought you'd like to reproduce it on your own?
Oh, yeah.
So we know it's in us, but it's not of us, right?
No.
Right.
That's what we do as humans. We try and test it out, and that's good. Good for you. Okay. We've begun to develop this vital sixth sense. What, you think vital sounds like they consider it important?
Yeah.
Look, man, I'm an addict of the hopeless variety.
Yep.
My human condition ensures that I will find a sense of ease and comfort. And if I keep focusing out there, I know what works. So I've got to learn to go inward. I've got to get the stuff out of the way. I've got to get that sense of ease and comfort from within. That's what I got to do. I don't know what you got to do. This is what they did, and this is what they experienced. Okay? We must go further, and that means more actions. These bastards never stop. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation, but we shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. So there's a promise and a condition. Prayer and meditation works if I have the proper attitude and work at it. What's the proper attitude?
Honestly wanting and willing to make the effort.
Do you hear that? I honestly want to, and I'm willing to make the effort. I had nothing left to do but pick up this spiritual toolkit they laid at my feet. This I did because I honestly wanted to and was willing to make the effort. Every time I crash, I'm in first step consciousness. Powerless. Unmanageability. And then when I go through the disciplines and realize who and what I am. And do you understand the all-inclusive nature of the steps? Are you following me? In step 1, the first step in recovery is what?
Fully concede to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic.
We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were addicts. By 3, they've taken a look at my human condition. They've allowed me the dignity to take a look at my human condition. And I had to concede that my human condition was equally deadly, given that I had suffered from the deadly affliction of addiction. So I fully concede my human condition, and by 4 they introduced to me that I might have a spiritual malady I was unaware of. And they told me what was blocking my consciousness of it, and I started looking at that, and through that process of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I got an ideal for the man I hope to be. So all of that power, all that stuff, still is a raising and lowering of my consciousness. Anytime I'm not achieving my ideal, it's not your actions or your thoughts about me that affect me. It's my own self-condemnation, not claiming who I am. Because the important thing about me as I witness to you is not that I'm an addict. It's not even that I'm a human. The important thing about me is that I'm a child of God, and I discovered it through this process. And it's not a theory. It's a fact from my experience. Does that make sense? Okay. And you are too, which is why we honor one another. Okay? So then it goes on to say it would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. I spun you up so you'd remember the process, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the fellowship haven't read our book. Because I can hear them talking and they can't talk to me with any clarity about the experience these people describe. In fact, they often talk opposite.
Yep.
How many of you went to enough treatment centers here to have made a few trigger lists? That shit'll kill a real alcoholic. The last trigger list I made, I just wrote pulse. If it's pumping, I'm dumping, right? All right. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? See, they knew me as a human. I wasn't going to do all that shit they told me to do as I go along. So I was going to get to the end of the day, and I was going to be a train wreck again, because I always am. They said, well, take another crack at it, Joe. How many of you have heard I did my 10-step evening review? It's because they don't understand the all-inclusive nature of the step. This is an 11-step discipline when I retire at night. And this is a practice I learned in 6 and 7. God take all of me, good and bad. The only way I'm going to do that, since the power lives in me, is analyze with my Creator what I did good and bad today. Right? And I got to grow into that experience. And you probably won't even start doing it until you start sponsoring others. And you know why you'll do it? Because you'll tell them, you're in your 11 steps, you got to call me every night for 30 days. And guess what? You'll start doing it every night for 30 days if you got enough of them calling you. Otherwise, you'll just go to sleep like everyone else. How many of you know what I'm talking about? How many of you really religiously do this now, but you had sponsees calling you every night at bedtime for probably years?
Sure.
That's the way it is. They save our life. Okay. Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should have been discussed with another person at once? That'd be a good time to call your sponsor, wouldn't it? And while you got your sponsor on the phone, if you got something that should be discussed, you might just tell him you're human too. Okay? Were we kind and loving toward all? And remember, they're going to shift my thought life. So if you just had a really good day and you still think you're doing really good, Let's talk about what we thought of people throughout the day.
Never mind.
Okay, there went the consciousness, right? What could we have done better? See, this is a matter... Do you understand when we say we learned, we had to fully conceive our innermost self? They're talking about an experience for a lifetime. They're not talking about an event that happened out there on the sidewalk. And if I start doing this review every night, I'll realize that I do the things I hate, and I don't do the things I want to do. And I have to have a power greater than me to drive me forward. Anyone else have that experience?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what this is the process of fully conceiving my innermost self. And if I don't do this, I haven't. Because I can't. I'm a cannot. Does that make sense?
Yes.
There are such unfortunates. Okay. All right. What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time, or were we thinking what we could do for others and what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. So guys, how many of you beat yourself? Give it to God. Give it to God. Talk to another human being. Give it to God. Find somebody that doesn't should all over you. If you're calling somebody that says this is what you should think or you should feel, that's not helpful. I know what I should think and should feel. I'm calling you because I can't. Quit shoulding all over me. And you guys that are sponsored, remember that. We've got these human experiences. How many of you just woke up one morning, just felt this wasn't right, and you went out all day looking for a source of that pain? Happens.
And I found it.
And it's never external. There's something going on in here. I got to get in it and look. Huh? Okay. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. So I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to wait for instruction. On awakening, what happened? Hey, wait a minute.
Download.
Something must have happened between asking and awakening. What you're going to learn, folks, is that consciousness is consciousness, whether I'm unconscious, semi-conscious, whatever. And so they're going to get some instruction in the dream state if you'll do these things they ask you to do. You don't have to believe me. You don't even have to believe them. You can do the damn thing you want. But if you do the things they did, you're likely to get the things they got. What I discover in the dream state is I sometimes get things out of my psyche and then nothing. And sometimes I get real revelations about situations in my life. Or about situations that other people face. It's just the way it is. I can tell you one friend of mine, matter of fact, he's here tonight, woke up one night, probably 2:30, 3 in the morning, and I had a revelation. The 23rd Psalm was playing, and I sent it to my friend, and his father had just passed. I mean, at the instant it went out. I'm not lying to you. Okay, and I think it means something when we're all in this together. You know? Okay. So, we consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking them to be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. So if you got here without a prayer life, these guys made it easy. When I wake up in the morning, before I do anything, don't ask God to keep you sober. He's already doing that. Ask Him to direct your thinking. That it be divorced, it's self-pity, dishonest, self-seeking motive. And the reason you want to do it, because this is what they found. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance. How many of you have discovered that there's a vast difference between you working for your mind and your mind working for you and God? Mm-hmm. It's a big difference, right?
Big difference.
If I'm working for my mind, I don't think you guys like me. I'm sure they're going to fire me. She's going to dump me. She's cheating on me. He's the one. Nobody else like me? But if my mind's working for me and God, everything's the way it's supposed to be. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
God gave us a brain to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. It's true, isn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. Anybody?
Yes.
That's a human thing. Okay. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Now, these are their definite and valuable suggestions. When I face indecision, when I can't determine which course to take, what they do is we ask God for inspiration and intuitive thought or decision. So they've told me, number one, what they ask for and how it materializes. Pretty powerful instruction, isn't it? God, inspire me. And then it will come to me in an intuitive thought or decision. Make sense? Okay. We relax and take it easy. Why did they learn that?
Experience.
How many of you have asked for something and then ran off doing what you wanted to do anyway? So you either missed the instruction, or you thought you could improve upon the instruction, or you didn't think you were fully understood. Or maybe I better not wait.
Modify it.
I think God's missed this one, I got to fix it. Yes, Supreme beings have a lot of those experiences. Okay. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We're often surprised how the right answers come after we've tried this for a while. Guys, it's trial and error. And it won't matter how clearly I can speak to you about it until you go out and try these suggestions. You won't understand fully what I'm telling you. Because this is my big book. I'm not suggesting how you should behave. I'm suggesting how I try to behave so that I can get free of me. And when I'm free of me, I'm free to be me, which is all I ever wanted. Anyone with me? Okay. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it's not probable we're going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions or ideas. Guys, I still got a lot of worldly tools. I still hold on to some resentments because I think they served me. I don't even know I'm holding on to them until I run into someone who reminds me of them, and then I realize how mad I am at you. Or I see you doing something that I recognize because I've done it before and I know how it turns out, so I'm going to tell you about it. I'll get loud. I'll follow you right on in. I'll tell you how it's not right to judge. As I judge you. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. Seize that promise. If I follow these suggestions, there will come a time that'll get easier. I'll be less affected by the world a higher percentage of the time. Okay? We usually conclude this period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be. That we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful never to make any requests for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. They've told you that real specifically in 3 and 7. You know, God, take away my difficulties, victory over them may bear witness. So, you know, all I've got to do is go, anytime people say, Joe, you seem to have a lot less problems in your life. What happened? Well, I got God. God sees to it I have less problems in my life. It's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? Okay. We're careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that. It doesn't work. You can easily see why. So they've told me to pray, meditate, pray. Catch that?
Yeah.
So that's the manner of living now. They've got me up to pray, meditate, pray. Okay? If circumstances warrant, we ask our friends to join us in morning meditation. If we belong to a religious denomination which requires a definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we've been discussing. There are many helpful books also. So, don't think you can just read someone else's meditation and do this, but reading someone else's meditation might help center you. You know, the 24-hour book, stuff like that. But the thing is, they want you in a conscious relation with the Creator within you. So talk to them about your day. Does it make sense? Talk to them like a friend.
It doesn't say AA conference in literature.
Yeah. Don't mess. You can ask anyone. Ask your minister or rabbi. Say any book with meditation and title is probably a good start. Okay. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer. You guys that are in my circle of influence, you've been receiving Scripture for a number of years. Not because I want you to have my concepts, but because I want you to see where religious people are right from a certain perspective. That's all. Does it make sense? And you do with it what you want. It's teaching the same things. You do with it you want. Power lives in you. Huh? Okay. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful. Any of you ever get agitated or doubtful? Okay, so they've said pray, meditate, pray, pause when agitated or doubtful. Catch that?
Yes.
Pray, meditate, pray, pause when agitated or doubtful. And remember, your agitator in your washing machine is just a gentle stirring. So as you become more aware, you'll start to find that there's miracles happening around you that you didn't know happened before. There's opportunities to love that you walk past. How many of you have gone into a room and everyone there was happy to see you, but the one guy, you spent the whole rest of the day worrying about why that one guy didn't like you? See, it would help to recognize expressions of love, wouldn't it? Okay? All right, so we pause when agitated or doubtful, when we ask the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves that we're no longer running the show. I'm going to need discipline in that practice. Thy will, not mine, be done. Right? Okay. Goes on to say, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, Thy will be done. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. Do you want to get more efficient?
Yeah.
You new guys, think about what's already happened to you. I told you were powerless to stop it. How many of you have started going to work? Making your meetings. Coming regular. Showing up. Things you couldn't even do 60 days ago. What's that but becoming more efficient? You're powerless. I've got God's vision for you. You're all recovered. Do you understand? You're going to have to want your recovery as bad as I want it for you. That's the only requirement. Does that make sense? Okay. We do not tire so easily, for we're not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works. It really does. Guys, this is their experience, not a concept. This ain't a freaking psychology book. Okay? We alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the simple way we've just outlined. What did they outline?
Pray, meditate, pray, pause when agitated.
Pray, meditate, pray, pause when agitated or doubtful. Pray, meditate, pray. In other words, pray ceaselessly. Stay conscious. That's it. And if you think that's a rigorous thing, how many of you, when you're first sober, the only thing you knew was the Serenity Prayer?
Yeah.
And everywhere you went, you walked around going, God, grab me the Serenity Prayer. See, you didn't quit doing that shit. You think it was going to get better? We just gave you some better prayers, that's all.
Yeah.
Some quick ones, on the fly stuff. Because we want you running. I don't want you on your knees, I want you ministering.
Yep.
On the fly. Okay? That's not all. They want us working. There's action and more action. Faith without works is dead. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. Sorry I ran you over.
Yay.